On the news, hunger for the holidays. That's a reality for so many in New York City.
With inflation taking center stage this Thanksgiving, one parish is feeding the masses. I'm Jessica Easthope with the food pantry that's not giving up on its community.
Then threats of a triple-demic and shortages of the antibiotics we need to fight it. Why doctors could share the blame. Colorado's carnage could have been worse if not for this man.
But I went, hey, I got to stop this guy. So I ran across the room and I pulled him down.
Plus, an entire Catholic school powered by the sun. Solar panels switched on today in honor of Pope Francis. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. They waited, some for hours, moving just inches at a time toward the hope of a Thanksgiving dinner. Lines like that, a sad scene all over New York City. Right now, it's hard enough to get a regular meal on the table, forget a holiday feast. But one Brooklyn parish is changing that. Our Lady of Refuge is providing the turkey and the trimmings, most of the food donated in honor of one of the city's own heroes. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story.
Hundreds of people line the block outside of Our Lady of Refuge Church, hoping a Thanksgiving will still be possible.
There you go. It's heavy, right?
They made a promise to give back, and on Tuesday, they kept it.
My friend, happy Thanksgiving, okay?
The Timothy Stackpole Foundation and firefighters from several houses across Brooklyn showed up with hundreds of turkeys. Stackpole was a firefighter who died on 9/11, and now his family carries on his legacy of service and faith.
Timmy was very devoted to St. Francis, so, it is in giving that we receive.
Timmy's grandpa, Timmy, said that's the greatest high you can get in life is helping other people, and that's the spirit that we try to carry on every day, right?
Yes.
That's right.
According to No Kid Hungry, a national campaign working to end hunger and poverty, 1/3 of Brooklynites are food insecure. The food pantry's weekly operation feeds nearly 400 people. But ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday, the needs soared, right along with the inflation that's stopping people from picking up their turkeys in a store.
It's been rough after the pandemic, trying to get back on our feet. It's been a blessing to be able to get some food considering the inflation that we've been facing.
The line behind me is long and still growing, but Our Lady of Refuge has promised that even if all their turkeys and chickens run out, no one is going to leave empty-handed. In Midwood, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The food pantry comes at a critical time in New York. According to the organization Feeding America, every county and congressional district in the state has people facing hunger. In total, that's close to 2 million people, or 1 in every 10. An even more heartbreaking statistic, 1 in 7 children go hungry in New York. That's more than 500,000 kids struggling for their meals. And here's another one. It's estimated that you would need more than $1 billion per year just to feed the hungry.
Happy Thanksgiving. God bless you.
CCBQ has been on the forefront of the hunger crisis, especially this holiday season. So far, the organization has helped more than 3,000 families in need. They've handed out turkeys and all the trimmings, determined to make sure that inflation doesn't ruin Thanksgiving. Overall, the ingredients for a traditional Thanksgiving meal will cost shoppers nearly 14% more this year. All this turkey talk means Christmas is right around the corner. It also means a tradition at the Tablet newspaper is kicking off. The Bright Christmas Fund's mission is to raise money for parishes and Catholic ministries in hopes of ensuring a Merry Christmas for children and families in need in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The staff at the Tablet is hoping to top their total from last year of $117,000 and raise $125,000 this year. The need is great this year for families fighting inflation, but you can help. Here's how. You can make a check out to the Bright Christmas Fund and mail it to Bright Christmas LB number 2118, P.O. Box 95,000, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the zip code 19195. Or you can make your donation online at thetablet.org/brightchristmas. We'll give out this information again at the end of this newscast. to a developing story. There will be 3 courses this Thanksgiving, but none you want. We're talking a triple-demic, serving up RSV, the flu, and COVID-19. As if that's not enough, let's talk about what's not on the menu. Families are struggling to find antivirals like Tamiflu, antibiotics like amoxicillin, and even albuterol inhalers. And experts think doctors are the reason why. Chris Wynn has more on the possibility they are prescribing antibiotics inappropriately.
This year's respiratory virus season is hitting early and hard.
It's a pretty harsh, I'll call it harsh winter in healthcare for us because the children are highly impacted by these viruses,
leading to high demand for medications such as the antiviral Tamiflu and albuterol inhalers. But pharmacies are also seeing short supply of first-line antibiotics amoxicillin and augmentin, used to treat common childhood ailments like ear infections and sore throats.
Primary care physicians are really overwhelmed with the amount of prescriptions that they're using to treat our children.
The cause behind the problem is multifaceted. Pharmaceutical companies don't keep stock of medications. Instead, drugs are manufactured based on orders from earlier in the year, which did not forecast a heavy respiratory illness season. Those infected with viruses can become more vulnerable to the secondary bacterial infections, which may add to the demand. But health experts say if the pharmacy is out of the preferred medicine, an alternative may be prescribed instead.
Work with the pharmacist there or with their prescriber to find another pharmacy that might have the drug in stock. There's also several other options that can be used as far as antibiotics go.
Doctors also recommend staying on top of hygiene, vaccinations, and well-check visits.
It's really important that we maintain the health so that way the kids can live and continue to grow stronger each and every day.
Chris Wynn, Currents News.
There was no shortage of energy at a Catholic high school in New Jersey today. In fact, they went solar. Immaculata High School's colors are blue and white and now green. Starting this afternoon, the bell and the rest of the electric in the Somerville school are powered by the sun. The installation of 1,228 solar panels on its roof was switched on today, a project 3 years in the making and a decision Jake Morio, the school's director of facilities, says was made with faith in mind.
Part of being a Catholic, we're told that we need to be good stewards, and it's important that, I pass along not only the school, but also the earth, in better shape than maybe we received it.
The school is a pioneer in the Diocese of Metuchen, but it's following the lead of Pope Francis. In his 2015 encyclical, Laudato Si, meaning care for our common home, the Pope emphasized the role Catholics play in maintaining the health of our earth. Not only are the solar panels good for the environment, they're good for the school. Immaculata estimates it will save 40 to 60% of its yearly energy costs. There's a lot more news headed your way.
I ran across the room, grabbed the handle, pulled him down.
This man's quick actions being credited for saving lives during that Colorado nightclub massacre. Plus, they are the Bleacher Preachers, how they spread the word of God in stadium stands. And a big Christmas celebration calls for a big Christmas tree. Just how big? We'll tell you later in the newscast. Kelly Loving, Daniel Aston, Derek Rump, Ashley Powell, Raymond Green Vance. These are the 5 lives cut short in Colorado Springs, killed as they enjoyed a night at Club Q. But at this vigil, their families and friends promise they will always live on in their memories.
Daniel had a big heart, and Derek had a big heart, and there's so many words that can describe him.
Come here, be with your friends, be with your family. Talk about the good times, talk about all the memories you had.
19 other people were injured during the Saturday night shooting. Some still haven't been released from the hospital. The suspect is also still hospitalized. He's facing 5 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of a bias-motivated crime. The carnage at Club Q could have been worse. People at the club that terrifying night say the gunman was tackled, and they're thanking God his rampage was cut short. The night would have been different if an Army veteran wasn't there. But Currents News' Andy Madison tells us the vet says he's not a hero. A warning, this could be disturbing to some viewers.
I still feel bad that there's 5 people. There's 5 people that didn't come home.
But many people at Club Q during the shooting did survive. Reportedly, that's thanks to retired Army Major Richard Fierro and others. He was at the Colorado Springs venue with his family for a drag show Saturday night. He says he saw the shooter heading toward the club's crowded patio.
I saw the ACU pattern flak vest. And for me, that was like, there's a handle, I'm getting it. So I ran across the room, grabbed the handle, pulled him down.
And that caused the shooter to drop his AR-15 style rifle, Fierro says. He adds that 2 people helped him subdue the suspect and 1 pushed away the weapon. Fierro says he took the shooter's handgun and hit him with it, saying,
"You tried to kill my friends. My family was in there. My little girl was in there."
His daughter's longtime boyfriend died that night. Fierro says 2 of his friends got shot. So after police arrived, he administered first aid.
Her husband was reaching for her, so I put her hand in his hand so that they could be together. I didn't know if they were going to make it.
They've been getting care in the hospital. Andy Madison, Currents News.
The shepherd of the Diocese of Colorado Springs, Bishop James Golka, joined the growing Catholic community praying for the victims. But the bishop also called for stricter gun control and more help for those suffering from mental health issues, saying, "As our world slowly crawls out of the COVID pandemic and many are facing possible financial hardship, I am deeply aware of the anxiety and pressure that is mounting for many of us. During this time, we must work to ensure that hurting people have help. We must work to ensure that life-giving options become more viable than violence and killing." That's an opinion shared by bishops across the United States, one discussed at length during their conference assemblies. Speaking of that, this year's full meeting may be over, but work on many of the issues is just beginning. Currents News' Jessica Easthope got an inside look at some of the conference takeaways with the Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan. He explained this meeting was different than previous ones because of changes to the overall process.
It was good to be together with the other bishops from around the country. We gave more time to smaller groups and to sending messages back and forth, as it were. So certain questions were presented to the small groups, for example, the regional group. That's been part of our tradition, so that the bishops of New York State met. And we were asked for some input on a couple of questions, things like our priorities and things like the faithful citizenship letter. That all got communicated back to the various committees. What was new is we also had some other groups, they called them fraternal dialogues, so that we weren't talking just to the same group of bishops all the time, but we were talking in different groups. But it was interesting. Not everybody gets up and speaks in the big meeting, but a lot of us, myself included, are far more comfortable talking in the smaller group, and then all of that information gets filtered up to the committees. And you could see in this meeting that it made a difference. You could see in this particular meeting that the input that they received actually helped them to refine the proposals they were making. And the faithful citizenship document's a good example. They had given us 4 options. And after listening to all the input of the small groups, they put together a 5th option, and that 5th option was the one that carried the day. So it was just a more fraternal and a more localized kind of a conversation that led to the larger conversation.
And Bishop, during Mass in his homily, outgoing USCCB President Archbishop Gomez referenced the need for self-examination and renewal for the bishops. What was he specifically talking about?
You know, people talk about the unity of the bishops. That was a theme in recent meetings. And I would say that there's a greater unity than you might think. We can have strong and vigorous debates, but we do it with a sense of charity, fraternal charity. And we do it with the sense of we're debating these ideas for the good of the church. Unity doesn't mean that we're monolithic, that we all think the same on everything. Unity comes about when we listen carefully to one another and then try to make wise decisions together. And that's what I think the Archbishop was getting at, that self-examination to say, how can we make sure that everybody gets heard, listen carefully to one another, and let the Holy Spirit work in that interchange.
And as you mentioned before, the bishops decided to update the faithful citizenship document that helps form the conscience of Catholics in the voting booth. What revisions will we be on the lookout for in the future?
Well, you know, the original document, one of the key authors of it was our own Bishop DiMarzio. And what Faithful Citizen tries to do is to focus in on the moral principles. We don't take partisan political sides. Even though many people would like us to do that on one side or the other. But what we do is we try to elaborate on the important principles. These updates are trying to take those principles and apply them to some of the newest situations. First of all, Faithful Citizenship was written in 2008. We have a new pope since then, Pope Francis, and so we want to incorporate a lot of his teachings. Secondly, circumstances have changed. Economic circumstances have changed. Political realities have changed. Roe v. Wade has been overturned, by the Dobbs decision. So what are the new realities in witnessing to life? So you take the principles, which really don't change from year to year, but we now try to apply some of those principles to some of the topics that are pretty important today.
Archbishop Gudziak made a presentation about the war in Ukraine. There's so much suffering happening in that country right now.
Imagine knowing that close to 100 cruise missiles are going at your cities. Yesterday was a 9/11 day. There have been many 9/11 days. All of us are old enough to remember what that day was like, 9/11.
Things are difficult. I think he gave us a number, something like 1 million windows have been broken, and the major glass manufacturer has been shut down. He asked the question, imagine as the winter months approach, just leave your window open, and many people don't have electricity or heat. Just imagine living under those circumstances, even for a night. He spoke about the plight of the people. He also spoke with tremendous gratitude. He spoke with gratitude for all of the help and the support that came from the diocese in the United States. I know our own diocese here in Brooklyn and Queens was very, very generous. And many dioceses, the Knights of Columbus as well, different agencies within the Catholic Church. So we've been responding to those needs, the humanitarian needs, and he's been very, very grateful.
And Bishop, you're interested in making a trip over to Ukraine.
Well, he did say that he did invite the bishops to come and to see firsthand the situation up close. So yeah, that's something that would interest me if it could be worked out. So we'll take a look at that in the months to come.
That was the Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan. Be sure to tune in to Currents News tomorrow night for the second half of Jessica's interview. We're diving deeper into the abortion debate and partisan politics. That's tomorrow with Bishop Brennan on Currents News. Over the weekend, the bishop joined the Cathedral Club of Brooklyn for their annual memorial mass at Our Lady of Angels in Bay Ridge. There, they remembered the lives of members who have passed away. The lay organization began in 1900 to advance Catholic interests and promote the moral improvement of its members. Bishop Brennan said, united in prayer, the mass exemplifies what God desires, for no one to be lost and all to be saved. In honor of Thanksgiving, Bishop Brennan celebrated Mass at Monsignor McClancy Memorial High School in Queens, but he also gave the students a special surprise.
You got a short week this week, right? Just 3 days? Make it 2.
Yep, they're starting their break 1 day early thanks to the bishop. During his homily, Bishop Brennan told the students to take the time to recharge and remember that Jesus loves them. Bishop Brennan also got a tour of the high school and got to talk with some of its students who I'm sure were grateful for that extra day off. Lucky them. Still to come on Currents News, from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Check out this tree. It's considered to be the biggest in the world. Can you guess where it is? And they call themselves the Bleacher Brothers, how they brought mass to America's pastime. We are just days away from the holiday season, but just for a minute, we're going to take you back to the dog days of summer. This year, 2 priests set out on a mission to spread the gospel in a different kind of cathedral. Their 11-week journey started as a dream, but the so-called Bleacher Brothers hit the road, making that dream a reality.
What if we go on pilgrimage to all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums and just encounter people where they're at?
Over 17,000 miles later, Father Casey and Father Tito covered all the bases. The 2 Franciscan priests, who are also avid baseball fans, wanted to follow in St. Francis's footsteps by bringing the gospel message to people in the places where they gather.
10, 20,000 people gather every single night of the summer. They're a great place of encounter.
So over the summer, the priests stepped up to the plate and ran with the Bleacher Brothers project. Father Casey and Father Tito began their journey in Miami and ended in Colorado, spending their summer watching baseball, playing cornhole, and tasting local cuisine as a means of encountering people. Father Casey says this pilgrimage takes a page out of Pope Francis's playbook for evangelization.
He says that proselytism is silly, it's useless. Going up to people and just telling them you need to believe in Jesus is not very effective. But simply being a presence there and being inviting and being normal, really, letting people come to us to ask questions. We don't go up to anyone. We look the way we do, we wear our habits, and that's fascinating to people.
Naturally, we get some interesting questions. Here's how we respond.
So you guys are obviously fans of the Padres?
Actually, they're fans of us.
Wait, are you guys for real?
I don't cosplay. I'm 100% real. But unfortunately, there's one question we don't get asked enough. Can we buy you a beer?
We want to show people that your faith doesn't have to be separate from the rest of your life. Bring the joy that you get from evangelization, the joy from the resurrection, to going to a baseball game. Let that be an experience of God's beauty. I mean, look at these cathedrals, really, these secular cathedrals. Look at the community that comes together. Look at the beauty of the game itself.
How fun. Aside from attending 30 baseball games, the priests also celebrated Mass in several of the cities and gave dozens of talks. Now from baseball to balsam fir. This Christmas tree in Germany is considered the largest in the world. It stands 147 feet tall. It took 4 weeks for the tree to be decorated with 48,000 lights and a 13-foot tall angel on top. In comparison, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree is only 82 feet tall, but it has 2,000 more lights. Wow. Now that you're in the Christmas spirit, let's get into the giving spirit as well. Earlier in the newscast, we told you about the launch of the Tablet's Bright Christmas campaign. The program, which began making Christmas brighter for the less fortunate children of the diocese in the 1960s, needs your help. Just make a check out to the Bright Christmas Fund and mail it to Bright Christmas LB number 2118, P.O. Box 95,000, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the zip code 19195. Or you can make your donation online with PayPal or a credit card at thetablet.org/brightchristmas. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.